Have you noticed how many things are supposed to feel fun, but they just don't? The movie is on. The food is there. The plans look good. The music is playing. The people around you are smiling. And yet something inside you feels flat. Not dramatic. Not broken. Just muted. Like life is still happening, but the color has drained out of it. And if that is where you are right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not imagining it. You are not alone. And you are not broken. Something deeper is happening. Because when nothing feels fun anymore, the problem is usually not that joy has disappeared. It is that your inner world has been carrying too much for too long. What used to feel light now feels heavy. What used to feel exciting now feels like effort. What used to make you laugh now barely moves you. And if you have been quietly asking yourself, what is wrong with me? The answer may be simpler and kinder than you think. Nothing is wrong with you. You may just be exhausted in places that rest does not fix. You may be carrying emotional weight that nobody can see. You may be living in a world that gives your mind too much noise and your soul too little space. And somewhere along the way, joy got crowded out. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may understand why fun disappears, why numbness shows up, and how to begin finding your way back to a life that feels alive again. The first thing we need to say is this: fun needs space. That sounds obvious, but most people forget it. Fun does not survive well in a crowded mind. It does not grow well in a nervous system that never relaxes. It does not stay alive when every moment is being filled, managed, optimized, and consumed. We live in a time where almost no silence is left untouched. If there is a pause, we fill it. If there is a line, we scroll. If there is discomfort, we distract ourselves. If there is emptiness, we rush to cover it. And then we wonder why nothing feels good anymore. When your life is constantly receiving input, your inner world does not get a chance to digest anything. You keep taking in more content, more opinions, more pressure, more information, more stimulation. But receiving is not the same as being nourished. You can consume all day and still feel empty at night. You can be entertained and still be starving. You can be surrounded by options and still feel no spark at all. Because fun is not just about pleasure. Fun is about presence. Fun is what happens when the mind is no longer bracing itself every second. It is what happens when your body feels safe enough to soften. It is what happens when you are actually there for your own life. And that is one of the biggest problems today. A lot of people are never fully there. They are half in the moment and half in the next thing. Half listening, half scrolling, half eating, half checking, half resting, half thinking about what they should be doing. That kind of living creates a strange emotional fog. And in that fog, joy gets quiet. Not gone, just quiet. Another reason nothing feels fun anymore is that many people are not just tired. They are emotionally saturated. That is different. Tiredness usually asks for sleep. Emotional saturation asks for release. You may have grief sitting under the surface that you never fully named. You may have disappointment that you pushed aside because life kept moving. You may have stress you normalized so deeply that you forgot what ease feels like. You may be functioning so well on the outside that nobody would guess how worn down you feel on the inside. And when emotional pain stays unprocessed for too long, the nervous system often chooses protection over pleasure. That is where numbness comes from. Numbness is not always the absence of feeling. Sometimes it is the presence of too much feeling for too long. It is your system saying, I cannot hold all of this in the open right now, so I will quiet everything down. That is why people in burnout often stop enjoying things they used to love. Not because they became shallow, not because they lost their soul, not because they forgot how to have fun, but because their system is protecting them from overload. So if life feels flat, please do not shame yourself for it. Listen to it. Numbness is often a message, not a personality trait. It is the mind and body asking for help in the only way they know how. There is another layer too, and this one is important. Sometimes nothing feels fun anymore because the life you are living no longer fits who you are becoming. That is hard to admit because it means the problem is not just stress. It might be misalignment. The things you used to love may no longer feel like you. The routines you once relied on may now feel tight. The people, goals, habits, and expectations around you may be demanding energy that your spirit does not have anymore. And when you keep forcing yourself to live as the person you used to be, joy starts to disappear. Because joy cannot breathe in a life that you have outgrown. This is one of the quiet pains of growth. You change slowly, and the world around you does not always change with you. So you keep showing up to old patterns with a new soul. You keep trying to fit into a shape that used to feel natural, but now feels small. You keep chasing pleasure in places that no longer nourish you. And then you think, maybe I just forgot how to enjoy life. But maybe you did not forget. Maybe you are simply trying to entertain a version of yourself that has already passed. That is why so many people feel strangely disconnected. They are not always disconnected from life itself. They are disconnected from truth. And truth matters. Because a soul that is being honest can heal. A soul that is pretending cannot. So here's a question worth asking. What if your lack of fun is not proof that life is empty, but proof that something in you is asking for a deeper life? What if the thing you are calling boredom is actually a spiritual signal? What if your system is trying to tell you that shallow stimulation is no longer enough? That is a hard thought, but it is an honest one. And honesty is where healing begins. Because if you keep treating numbness like a defect, you will fight yourself. But if you treat it like information, you can learn from it. You can ask better questions. What have I been ignoring? What have I been carrying? What in my life feels too noisy? What am I forcing? What am I chasing that no longer feels true? What part of me has not had room to breathe? These questions matter because joy rarely returns through pressure. You cannot bully yourself back into delight. You cannot shame yourself into wonder. You cannot force your way into aliveness. What you can do is make room for it. That is the real work. Not more pressure. More space. Not more performance. More presence. Not more stimulation. More honesty. Sometimes the first step back to joy is not trying harder. It is stopping long enough to notice how tired you really are. And I know that sounds simple, but it is not. Most people are so used to pushing through that they no longer know what real exhaustion feels like. They call it laziness when it is actually depletion. They call it apathy when it is actually overload. They call it being in a bad mood when it is actually a system that has been asked to carry more than it was built for. So what do you do when nothing feels fun anymore? You do not panic. You do not force yourself to become instantly cheerful. You do not pretend you are fine. You begin by reducing noise. Not forever, just enough to hear yourself again. Put the phone down for a while. Take a walk without filling your ears. Sit with a cup of tea and do nothing for a few minutes. Let a conversation be simple. Let a moment be ordinary. Let life be quieter than your fear of it. At first, that quiet may feel uncomfortable. That is normal. If you have been overstimulated for a long time, silence can feel strange before it feels healing. But if you stay with it, something begins to change. Your body settles. Your breath deepens. Your mind stops racing for 1 second. And in that second, something real can enter. This is often how joy comes back. Not as a loud explosion. Not as a perfect breakthrough. But as a small return. A little more softness. A little more appetite for life. A little more curiosity. A little more peace. And once that begins, protect it. Do not rush to fill every gap again. Do not immediately go back to feeding your mind with more than your soul can hold. Fun does not need a crowded life to survive. It needs an honest one. There is another practice that matters here too. Start paying attention to what still feels alive, even if it is small. Maybe it is sunlight on the floor. Maybe it is a song that reaches you in a way others do not. Maybe it is a walk at the end of the day. Maybe it is the smell of rain. Maybe it is cooking slowly. Maybe it is writing. Maybe it is a quiet conversation with one safe person. Do not dismiss these things because they are small. Small is where healing often begins. Joy does not always return through grand experiences. Sometimes it returns through attention. Sometimes it returns when you finally notice what your soul has been whispering all along. You are not here to survive on stimulation alone. You are here to be fully alive. And aliveness is deeper than entertainment. Entertainment can distract you. Aliveness can change you. Entertainment can fill a moment. Aliveness can restore a life. That is the difference. And if you have been chasing fun but finding nothing, maybe what you actually need is not more fun. Maybe you need more truth. Maybe you need more stillness. Maybe you need more real connection. Maybe you need to stop treating your inner emptiness like a problem to solve and start treating it like a message to hear. Because sometimes the heart goes quiet when it is tired of pretending. Sometimes the soul loses taste for shallow things when it is ready for something deeper. Sometimes the loss of fun is the beginning of a more honest life. Not a worse one, a truer one. And truer lives can be beautiful. They may not always be loud. They may not always be easy. They may not always look exciting from the outside. But they feel real. and real is what the soul has been asking for. So if nothing feels fun anymore, do not assume you are ruined. Do not assume joy is gone for good. Do not assume this is the end of your light. It may simply mean that your system is asking for a different rhythm, a slower rhythm, a quieter rhythm, a more honest rhythm, one that gives space for wonder to return, one that gives your body time to trust again, one that gives your spirit room to breathe. Maybe fun has not disappeared. Maybe it is waiting for you in a quieter room. Maybe it is waiting beneath the noise. Maybe it is waiting on the other side of the pressure you have been living under. And maybe the first step toward it is not to chase it. Maybe the first step is to stop abandoning yourself long enough to hear what you actually need. You do not need to become someone else to feel alive again. You need to come back to yourself. And that return begins with one simple truth. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not failing. You may just be worn down, overstimulated, and quietly asking for a life that feels more like home. If this message resonated with you, stay close to this channel. This is where we talk about the deeper patterns behind burnout, numbness, healing, identity, and inner transformation. If this video helped you understand what has been happening inside you, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. If you found value in this reflection, like the video so it can reach more people who are feeling this same quiet heaviness. And if you feel safe, leave a comment with one honest sentence. What is one thing that used to make life feel alive for you?